Blessings, blessings, and welcome, YouTube community. I'm going to just get set up here on Instagram. As always, it is such a gift. It is such a gift to be here. It really is for me. This process of sharing these live streams on a weekly is an initiation of sorts, and I recommend it to you. If you have something that you really love teaching, you really love studying and exploring, to put yourself on the hot seat and to take a chance in sharing what your findings are, what your inspiration is with the world through a live stream is just such a cool way to just meet yourself, but also to surrender and to find yourself in the presence of spirit, the presence of really trusting, and also at that crossroads of finding yourself channeling. Hi, welcome on Instagram. Thank you so much for hopping on, and thank you everyone on YouTube. So I was just saying that I'm inviting all of us that have this aspect of something that really turns you on, that fires you up, that you want to teach, that a live stream on YouTube, on Insta, on Facebook, wherever it is, a blog. It feels like there's more and more people. The more that I just connect with my community, with my friends, there's more and more of us that have something to share, or that feel this amazing push, this nudge by spirit to get out there in the world and to share. Now, whether it's your face or not, some people don't want their face to be a part of it, some people only want their voice to be a part of it, or the whole shebang, whatever it is. But I'm inspiring you because as teachers, which we all are, and students as we all are, this is our school, this is our playground, and all of our contributions just help so much. Right? They help so much to support each other and create a sacred space where we can see one another and also gain insight, get downloads. All of us hold all the pieces to the puzzle of oneness, of unity, of healing, of our belied. I think I was trying to say blessed life and it came out as blind, of our blessed life, and really living heaven on earth, really living a peaceful interconnection with each other. And teaching what you want to learn is the best way to learn more about it. You will draw like minds to you. You will draw opportunities and situations to experience and express more of it. So I just invite you to doing that. So welcome everyone. I am Tuesday, May Thomas, and this is my weekly live stream 4D Trinity. And what I'll just say before we begin is that once a month on 4D Trinity, I do a live stream which is called Q&A, Ask Me Anything. I channel your higher self for the highest good. Sometimes I use a few cards, I pull a few cards and offer guidance that may be in the unconscious or that subconscious wisdom part of us. And so that will be happening next Thursday. If that's of interest of you, mark your calendar and come back here. If you're on Insta watching it, you just DM me your questions. We get right into it. If you're on YouTube, you go ahead and leave your question in the comments. So that will be next Thursday as well. Please do follow my, isn't it so interesting? When the tongue gets wily, I'm inviting you to my website and to sign up and subscribe for my monthly love letter. I share a monthly blog, and I also share an unedited rough chapter of my upcoming book titled Holy Grail Hologram. And that is a companion to a screenplay and a movie I'm creating called Grid Mind Science. I want to say thank you to everyone in Instagram land for following Grid Mind Science. And I'm very quick in Instagram to be posting and to be interactive, and not so quick with it on Facebook and Twitter, although Grid Mind Science is there. So thank you for your patience with that. And thank you everyone for following. And of course, for following at my homepage, Tuesday, May Thomas. So if you'd like to keep in touch, please do go to my website, which is my full name, and you'll see a subscription box right there. One more thing is that I'm so excited. to be presenting at this upcoming Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Hilton, where I will be facilitating a presentation on grid mind science and all the ways that metaphysics, science, and spirituality are meeting and bridging the gaps. I'm so excited to share this information with you. I will have a booth all weekend there and be meeting and talking and doing interactive energy metaphysical experiments with all of the passersby, selling my books and all that good stuff. So do keep in touch, and thank you for your support with all of my endeavors in that realm. Okay, A Course in Miracles. Are you familiar with this amazing and profoundly potent book, with this set of teachings? It has completely changed my life in ways that are deeply mystical. A Course in Miracles is a mind training where we move and shift out of thinking in ways rooted in fear to thinking in love. We move out of thinking and creating worlds with thoughts, with perceptions of fear, and we train our minds in how to get back home, as it were, how to get back to root, back to source, back to love, by untangling the mind frame that would have us rooted in fear, which a lot of this fear-based thinking is that which is in the subconscious, is that which we may not even be aware is running our lives. And it's only, as you know, if you meditate, if you have any kind of a root practice, a spiritual practice, as we start to go in deeper to ourselves and sit and really listen to the track, to what is the ticker tape track going on in your mind that's holding you together, that's the scaffolding of your energetic being and presence. And we start to become aware of where we are entertaining and renting out space in our body-mind continuum to those aspects that are rooted in fear, that are rooted in limitation. And a lot of those things are just stories that we've heard about the world. Stories become our beliefs. And when beliefs go unchecked, they become our reality. And that's why in this spiritual world, we are continually, with new authors, with new workshops, with new lectures and new, just online courses, because there's so many ways that we can learn how to be a master of our time and space. There's so many ways how we can learn how to shift and heal those parts of us that are rooted in fear, that believe the fearful stories, and move into trusting a different paradigm, which is rooted in love, which is such a huge leap. It's such a huge leap. And this book, A Course in Miracles, has been a miracle in my life. Believe me, what I've been through in the last 5 years, and we all have our stories, but this book has profoundly held space for me and kept me in root with the truth. So let's introduce this show. I am Tuesday Mae Thomas, and this is 4D Trinity, my weekly live stream. I talk about fourth dimensional consciousness here. 4D is the space of the heart, is the root principle of love, which I teach is the founding principle, the building block of all creation throughout the entire universe. Yet that structure, that very foundation, becomes covered with the stories that we hear, that we're told from our families, our societies, social media, our cultures, our traditions. And unless we begin activating our own sense of mind, our own sense of authenticity, we begin to believe those stories we're told, and we allow those stories to drive us to navigate our path in the world. And again, as we get into our spiritual practices, and sometimes just life itself, just being still, you have the realization of what parts of your life that you're living in a way that are false, that are not true to you, that are not authentic, that are actually disempowering you. and holding you back, keeping you rooted in fear and in lack. And this book, the lessons, the text, the information in here helps us again to bridge our way from those limiting fear-based beliefs and thoughts and recreate a structuring whereby we can begin to see through the eyes of love, using the physical eyes to perceive on purpose that which we see through the eyes of love versus eyes of fear, versus perceptions of fear-based realities. And it's very sneaky because we might not even realize how much of our perception is rooted in fear until we start to go deep. That's the God phone. Hello? Hey, God. How are you? God is good. God says hi, as always. Yes, blessings. We're doing some Course in Miracles today with the grid. Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Absolutely. So it's all Course in Miracles. Oh, you want to make sure that we read the introduction though before we go any further. Okay, I will do. I will do. Thank you, dear God. And God wants us to remember that we are in a time of no time, a time of redefining ourselves and all things. And God itself is ready to be redefined. And here on this show, what I offer is that God is a verb. Thank you for reminding me to mention that this morning, dear God. Okay, I will. Blessings. God says bye. God is a verb. God is a verb. God is a feeling, realization of oneness. God is that unity, consciousness, right? So we're redefining here on this show what this word is, because ultimately, this idea, this symbol as the word God is just pointing to a feeling. It's pointing to a realization of a new reality where heaven on earth becomes a true, real new set point for our reality collectively. God is not outside of us. God is love. God is that feeling and that shared space of the expression of love between all of us. And the miracle of that is us being awake and aware to realize it and to rejoice in it, to receive it. And it's so powerful. So the God phone, God wants us to just, before we start to get into the lessons of A Course in Miracles and start talking about the grid, wants me to read just this little blurb here to get us started from the introduction, which is nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Again, this is rooted in this aspect of love versus fear. That which is truly rooted in love is real. And that which is rooted in fear is unreal. That which is rooted in fear, according to A Course in Miracles, actually is a part of the illusion. It doesn't exist. And all that you perceive, all that you can receive in the frequency of love is what is real. All that you perceive, that you co-create through the value of metaphysics, simply by your perception, by the observer effect, by you deciding to see love in a person, in a place, in a thing, creates that pathway for love to show up and be revealed for the highest good of all. Without force, we're not doing magic, we're simply utilizing the toolkit of this energy body to co-create in the name of love, to co-create peace, to co-create heaven on earth, which is what fourth dimensional consciousness is. And I know there's a lot of talk about 5D and all the other Ds. And really the Ds are just things that we make up in our mind. And what I like to think about with 4D is like, this is no mind place. I know the Buddhists say that the heart is where the true mind is. And we can absolutely align with that. Yet what we're proposing here is that there is no mind in the heart with the teachings I share, and that it's spirit, it's intuition, it is a knowing that comes from collapsing everything into the now moment by dissolving past timelines. Again, those timelines that root us, that anchor us in pain, in fear, in trauma, in hate, in all of those polarized notions of what we've been taught about the world. Nothing real can be threatened. When you know that you are a child of God, if I will, a child of love, when you really get into and drop into trusting the frequency of love and your full power and authority, nothing can mess with you. Nothing can take you from that center, because you begin to energetically dissolve your physical presence, as it were, in this third dimension, in this 3D. And you begin to inhabit the essence of all that is, that being the God frequency, that being love and light. And where there's no physical presence, there's nothing that can stick to you, to thwart or to hinder the potential of the continuing unfurling of the love that you are. Right? We say that love is the background of all creation. And on top of that is the grid matrix of collective consciousness. On top of that backdrop of love resides the grid. So here's love. Imagine this is a snapshot of the entire universe before it even was a universe. And it's just love and light. It's just love and light. And then, however, whatever story you want, whether it's the Big Bang, whatever story you want, right? That we begin to particulate, we begin to fractalize from being this one love, this one light, this white light, into many different infinite aspects of the one. And from those many different aspects of the one, we have different perceptions. Again, we have those different stories that we are told and we tell ourselves. And these stories and these words have meaning. And the meaning of the stories that we tell ourselves, the words connected to the stories we tell ourselves, run our lives. Which is fine if you're living your best life and you feel great and you feel that you're in full alignment. Yet, there's a time to pause when we realize that something's out of alignment, that I actually am ready to shift my health. I'm ready to shift my relationship sector. I'm ready to shift my finances. Then we become aware of what is required to shift in our belief system, and from the tip of our tongue, what we're giving rise to. Now, what I will say to introduce is that this book, there's a lot that you can say about this book that might give people knee-jerk reactions or freak them out, but it is said to be the word of Jesus Christ. And in a way, these are my own words, it is offering us a template to look at biblical offerings in a new light, in a new way, where there may seem to be the root of fear in God, the root of fear in what religious doctrines have dogmatically given us as the stories to run our lives, right? There's the dual aspect. There's the love in there and there's the dark in there. Yet the truth of the frequency of God, of the frequency of love, is that it is love and only love. So if this resonates, those stories that are in consideration that we might be told through religious doctrine that would have you be afraid of God, that's not true. And this book helps us to dispel the roots of fear. And whatever you believe about conspiracy theories, the Bible, there's so many books in the Bible that are not put in the Bible. There's so many stories that are withheld from the mass. And it's just, this been rewritten by who? And we can, do our research and look at that. But really, we are the ones that are rewriting ancient Holy Scripture by how we perceive it. And this book was in my words, channeled, she would not say it, by a woman named Helen Schuckman. I believe she's now passed away. She worked at Columbia University, and she began this automatic writing. Again, that's not her words. If you ever hear an interview with her, I believe she calls it inner dictation. She wasn't even trying to write a book. I believe she was Jewish, and she wasn't even into Christ as it was. And she started getting this voice rather, and that told her to write. And she wrote and she wrote and she wrote, and herself and her colleagues then put this book together, which is now A Course in Miracles. If you're familiar with Marianne Williamson, for 30 years, she has been a teacher and a guide of these lessons and these teachings, which again bring us back to love and to light. It's a mind training. It's a mind training. There are lessons for each day of the year, plus text. It is deeply metaphysical and very, very powerful as an anchor to bring us back to love, to rewire our mindset in a way of love and light. Blessings, Katie. Thank you for hopping on YouTube. And thank you everyone at Instagram for being here. I pray that everything I share truly serves your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty. This is all about our collective remembrance of our multidimensional power, so that those parts of us that have been fragmented through timelines of past and future begin to come aligned in love, which is where the now is. The now does not exist anywhere but now, in the root of love. Knowing thyself is knowing thyself. And the deeper we are invited to go in by spirit, by our higher selves, to explore that, we'll recognize where the dismantling of those parts of us that maybe served us to one part or one level of our life are ready to be disbanded. The first lesson in A Course in Miracles: nothing I see in this room means anything. Nothing I see in this room means anything. So right out of the gate, the teachings are inviting us to disband everything we know. Forget about it. Everything that you think that you know doesn't mean anything, right? Now, some students right away are kind of overwhelmed by that, because then if nothing means anything, all of a sudden the structure of what your whole life is built upon becomes crumbling down. But that's the idea, is that we are releasing old structures in order to see what is the true structure. In fact, we feel like, it feels like we're building new structures, but ultimately all we're doing is we are bringing our awareness to those structures that are incongruent, that are limiting, that do not bless us in our sovereign right, that hold us back, that keep us in old addiction, limiting, toxic patterns, whatever they are. And they become illumined just by our turning the light on. And often that's all that's required for that information, for those set points to dissolve, so that the truth, which is always present, can shine. I want to say hello here. I'm just going to put the glasses on. Oh, blessings, Skylark. Hi, thank you for joining. I'm so grateful. And Katie, see, I recognized yours, Katie, without my glasses on, but I couldn't see Chris. Blessings. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Oh, is that April? That's April. Blessings. Thank you, sister. Nothing I see in this room means anything. Okay, that's lesson 1. Lesson 2, I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning it has for me. I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning it has for me. So pause for a moment and consider that. Look around the room. What things do you see? What people do you see? What do they mean to you? What words, what feelings? All, every single thing you look at, you can have this like a drop down page of all of your past experiences, all of your memories, all of the words, all of the ways that you would describe, that you feel about that thing, what triggers it brings up, what it opens in your heart or otherwise. But let's take it one step further. Nothing I see in this world means anything. Nothing I see in this world means anything. Right away, we're going to have to drop our stories. We're going to have to drop our stories about everything and come into a place of, I know nothing, which is what the masters would say, right? I know nothing. Nothing in this room, nothing in this world means anything. I have given everything I see in this room, everything I see in this world, all the meaning that it has for me. Think about that. You have given it meaning, but also your parents, society, your partners, your friends, your communities, social media, whatever you say, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, and you allow that to digest through you and you give that the right of way to be how you see and perceive through your perceptual lenses of the physical eyes, this third dimensional world, that's what will be for us. But have you given that meaning from your mind, from conditioning, from stories that you've been told, or from fearful past experiences exclusively? Or have you allowed the voice for God, that true wisdom of spirit, to show you, to reveal to you what is the true meaning? Again, what is that true meaning? The backdrop of all creation that resides as a constant backdrop to the grid matrix. And also that love is within the grid. The grid is a binary system that contains the dual nature of our reality, both the light and the dark, both the fear and the love. Yet beyond that is the love and only love, which is where A Course in Miracles helps us to get to. I'm going to say a little bit more and then I'm going to check in with the comments on YouTube. So I have given everything I see in this world, everything I see in this room, its meaning. Once you realize that, you're like, oh, okay, so I have contributed to how I see, to how I perceive my reality. And in quantum physics, the observer effect again, how I look at what I see changes it. It changes it metaphysically. Yet if we've been told to see things a certain way and don't question it, don't turn the rocks over, then we're just seeing the past. We're seeing what everyone else has seen over and over and over again. And we're saying, yep. And so we feed our perceptual lenses to connect with the collective feedback loop that just keeps bringing us more war, more violence, more, and of course I'm thinking about the negative qualities or those polarized qualities, because it seems those are the ones that catch us, right? Those are the ones that snag the pantyhose, as it were. It's all the love and light stuff that often, maybe I'll just speak for myself, but that often can just go by. And it's those things that mark us. It's those experiences where we go, wow, I could have shown up as a better person, or man, that really was awful what happened, or the bad thing. Did you see that on the news? It's like those are the things we get hooked into and that we talk about, that we share the stories about. And it's not always, but just for this instance, for where we're going with this. And that feeds into the matrix, into the grid, that feeds that feedback loop that will then continue validating for us by our contribution through our perception, observer effect. How I see what I look at changes it. We exist in a sea of subatomic atoms, of subatomic particles that are ever fluctuating from being particles to waveforms, which means they can be both. And they're also disappearing in and out of this reality, in and out of our perceptual ability to view them, so science says. And we are that. There's a continual bubbling and percolating of our being that can shift and change at any moment, depending on how we decide to see it. I can look in the mirror and say, girl, you need to work on yourself. You did it, and get all negatronic on myself. Or I can look at myself no matter what's going on or how my physical eyes might see it. And I can use my third eye, I can use my heart. And I can say, I love you. You're perfect just the way you are. We're doing the best that we can, which create a whole different avenue for my experience. Do you believe that? Have you experienced that firsthand? That how you look at something changes it. Been in the presence of a person and they might seem angry, and you can see them and go, woof, they're freaking so furious. They're so angry. Look at them. Ooh, I don't want to be around them. Da, da, da. And fine, where your intuition, your higher self guides you, you will go. Yet, you can also, as you're guided to just be present, decide to see with eyes of love and not be triggered and not have a redefinition and a reconfirmation of what you're seeing, and just hold space and see with the eyes of God and see with those eyes of love. And have you ever had that experience where there's been that grace upon you in that situation, and what happens is that anger or that incongruent frequency begins to, just in the presence of your tuning fork of love, begin to harmonize in its own beautiful way without you forcing it. You're not trying to change someone. Oh, you're angry. You should be better. You should be full of love and light. So I'm going to like beam you this and you're going to change. And it's not about that. It's about you maintaining your set point and seeing with eyes of love as a constant. So let's look at a few of these comments. And is running for president. I know, Marianne Williamson, she kicks ass. We are in this world, but not of it. Absolutely, Skylark. True state of knowing. Yep, true state of knowing. We are stardust, but we are having an amazing physical experience that is driven by our spiritual self. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what the cool thing about A Course in Miracles, Skylark, is that when we find that we're getting in the way, or that we're taking life too seriously, or we're taking this world that I've given the meaning to, I've made this world very serious and all the things I'm doing here very serious, and I'm taking myself very serious, and I'm talking about myself. Yet perhaps there's a reflection where we can all sort of like understand that metaphor. That's the moment where I get stressed and where I start to take this whole thing way too seriously, including myself, where I go, okay, let me come back to spirit. Let me come back to that. And just that initial initiation of looking in that direction, just that willingness to say, let me remember that I am not of this world, that I am not just this body, that I am not just these things or these projects or these deadlines or whatever it is. Then there's this divine alchemy. And that's that metaphysical principle that is so absolutely here for all of us. Yet it's so hidden in plain sight that we say, well, what else you got? What other tool do you have? I need something that I can see. Yet for those of us that have an aptitude for seeing with our light sight, with the third eye and the heart, for seeing metaphysically that which is beyond the five senses, right? Then we begin to welcome in that which would be invisible to actually begin to become visible, tangible in our experience. And we begin to understand how we are interconnected to it. And so getting out of our way and letting the spiritual self drive. Katie says, I have always felt that nothing in this room matters. It's difficult to find what I should be connecting to instead. The energy is waiting to be told where to go. You know what? And the energy is what I will offer you, Katie. I know you have a few more I'm going to read, but what I would offer you is that the energy that you're speaking of is just the mind. Because the mind instantly needs to like fill the void and like, okay, well, what else? And you know what? This is a part of the lesson, is that nothing matters, is that to just be at that point of zeroing it all out and just being okay again with all of that scaffolding, with all of those grids, with all of those constructs of meaning dropping away, is that level one sort of initiation of like, whoo, because the mind will right away want to fill it up and put something in there. Then Katie says, I had a dream that totally explained that particles, waves. I wish I could recreate it and can only remember the feeling of what allowed me to do it. Oh, well, please, as it channels through again, Katie, write a blog, do a YouTube. I would love to know your insight on it. Okay, and Skylark says, yes, then understand life. Okay, right, I already am. I keep forgetting that. Okay, I am. Yes, I am. So let's keep going. So we've given everything that we've seen. We've said yes to the stories we've been told about the world. So I have given everything I see in this room, in this world, all the meaning it has for me. But then the next lesson, lesson 3, is I don't understand anything I see in this room. I don't understand anything I see in this world, which is telling the mind to reconfigure, to unwire what it thinks it understands. Thank you for hopping on Instagram. Blessings, everyone. I'm so grateful for your presence here. So I don't understand. We come back to the beginner's mind of I know nothing and the grace that's there. And then we realize, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I have given everything I see in this room, in this world, all the meaning it has for me. Lesson 4, these thoughts that I have about the world, about this room, about everything in this room do not mean anything. The thoughts that I have about everything do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. They are like the things that I see in this world. They don't mean anything. And I know this is a big leap, and this is only lesson 4, and there's 365 lessons in the book, but this is a big leap. But again, it's encouraging us, it's inviting us to go to that place of no thingness and being cool, being absolutely cool, because what are we? We are that no thingness. It's getting us back to spirit, back to root, back to source, back to God, back to love. Of no thing, right? No thing. At the beginning of this live stream, I was talking about that here what we say is that God is a verb. God is not a thing necessarily, right? It is a verb. It is a feeling realization, that feeling realization of oneness, of unity, of that shared experience and expression of love in motion. All things are ready to be redefined. But first, like A Course in Miracles is offering, we get to undefine. We get to unravel. And then we get to lesson 7. I see only the past. So this whole matrix, this whole grid matrix that we're all plugged into, this collective consciousness that we are all participating in, this is all rerunning the past. And if you watched my show, I'll put a link up here later for, it was on AI, and I talked a lot about the Akashic Records. It's all the past. Yes, everything is contained there, but even the future versions of self are all the past. And I'm not going to get distracted here by going into that, but just offering that as a seed. All I see is the past. Everything that we see is the past. Everything that we have given meaning to, and that we have agreed to, those structures and those beliefs that we've told about the world, about the meaning, about things, that's all based on the past. So as we continue thinking those past thoughts, thinking and speaking in the ways that perpetuate the past, that's all we get. And we might get a slightly renewed version if we kind of think about it differently. But what A Course in Miracles is saying is stop thinking about it completely. Is get back to that space of I know nothing. This whole world, this whole grid matrix, this whole matrix that we live in the 3rd dimension, is all rooted in stories. It's all rooted in the past. It's all rooted in experiences collectively shared that are held as memory in the grid that we tap by our agreement, that we just tap and we keep plugging into that. And we say, yes, through law of resonance, law of vibration, that is the truth, and I'm going to receive that truth. I want that truth. That's my reality. Bring it on. But when we forget, when we allow ourselves to get out of the mind as the way that we've been taught about it, then we can begin to see things differently. Then we can redefine God. We can redefine the world. But remember, what's happening is when we really let spirit, when we really let the frequency of God in, is that we, this physical human construct, is not doing the defining. We are given the divine definitions through a pure knowing, which again comes from knowing thyself, which in essence is knowing thyself, which collapses time and space, word, thought of all time, space, and dimensions through everything we can imagine, however many dimensions you want. It doesn't matter. We're making stuff up. We're making it up. You know, some of it's mental and some of it's true spiritual, mystical inspiration. And that's where we're going to. We're learning to be mystically inspired, to allow the world and all the things in it, including ourselves, to be redefined. My interpretation of how A Course in Miracles has worked through me, so that greater love, so that that truth of the now, of the knowing, of that seed, that genesis of the Most High, profound, miraculous, has a seat at the table, has a space to dance through me, through my thoughts on my tongue and my words, through my perceptual lenses. We give it the right of way. But first, nothing I see in this room, nothing I see in this world means anything. Erase it all. Erase it all. Nothing means anything. Nothing that you're doing right now means anything, right? And the ego will be like, excuse me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that's fine. It's cool. On a 3D, yeah, we all have our aspirations and our goals and whatnot. But the recalibration of those goals, of those aspirations, in the name of love, in the name of light, given the right of way, giving its full power and authority to get out of the past, to be something, for you to be something that you've never been before, requires the relinquishing of the continual loop of thinking past thoughts. It is said that 99% of our life is driven by the subconscious, and those are all the thoughts, OMG, that we don't even know that we're having. Until we get in there, or until we start meditating, you start to get acclimated in a root practice, and you're like, whoa, oh, and there's so many different layers, but we work on what's in front of us at any given moment. But first, nothing I see in this room means anything. And then that lesson 2, I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning it has for me. I have given everything I see in this world all the meaning it has for me. Actually, the world has given me all the meaning that it has to me. And I've just said, okay, I'm just going to take what's given to me, whether you believe whatever you believe about the world. And until I start to think again and decide again on my own behalf that I would choose to see things differently, that I would choose to see with eyes of love, to illumine the love, the set point, the backdrop of all creation that is inherently a part of the subatomic, beautiful sea of potentials that we exist in. Love is always present in the wave and the particle. And again, observer effect. It's just, what am I choosing to see? Am I choosing to see the polarized aspects of this world, or am I choosing to see love? And knowing that you have a choice, right, is a big deal, and it will affect your health. If we continue thinking that this world is really fucked up and we're all going to die, which we all are at some point, but and that if we're really, it has its roots in feeling not safe and feeling threatened constantly, that's going to create a shift in the chemistry of our body to be hitting that sympathetic nervous system that has us in fight or flight. But you see, we get used to living in that stress. It's just like coffee. We get used to, having 8 cups a day. And I'm just saying metaphorically, where you're like, what? But I'm fine. Pour me another cup. This is how I live. This is how I roll. But then you detox and you're like, whoa, there's like the brakes get put on and you do the little detox. And then you realize like there's a whole other frequency of existence happening, a whole different timeline of yourself that you wouldn't have known had you kept drinking coffee. So if we keep thinking and seeing the past through the world, through the lenses, through the stories we are told, that's all we're going to see. What do they say? History repeating itself. Nolik. And Leslie, all blessings. Frizawikalul. And I could never understand how to say that. Your Instagram handle. Frizawikalul. But thank you for being here, all of you. And Mustafa. Blessings. Thank you. And I pray that this is like, juicing you up. It's like inspiring the atoms in you. So I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning it has for me through your own experience. You define people, places, and things. Or you are given the definitions, the meanings of things through family, culture, society, religion. You cannot have a word without a thought. And you cannot have a thought without a word. Words create worlds. Worlds are made of words. That came yesterday at the library when I was studying. I love that because it just breaks it down right away. All these meanings, all these conditions, all these stories, they're just words, but each word we all have a different perception of. We all have a different meaning. We all have a different drop-down menu of what that means to us. And what this is saying is it's inviting us to say, let all those definitions go. Nothing can be redefined in the name of love, in the name of God, which is love, the experience, the frequency, the feeling, realization of love, of unity. It cannot be experienced in that fullest love and light until we drop all the stories, we drop all the definitions. And of course, I'm speaking specifically to those aspects in those areas where there's polarity, where we're experiencing lack and limitation or frustration, impatience, these aspects in our life. Lesson 3, I do not understand anything I see in this room. So again, we're dropping the scaffolding, right? That's usually when we have the nervous breakdown. The breakdown before the breakthrough. And we're going, fuck. When you really pray, and not just our thoughts and prayers are with you, that's a grid, but when you really drop in and connect from your heart with spirit, with love, with God, source, whatever name you would give that frequency of all that is that cannot be contained, that really we cannot put a word on because instantly it is limited. But when we surrender to it and we invite it in, that is that which cannot be contained, that which is not of the past, you see. That's the now. I believe this book is bringing us into the now, which is fourth dimensional consciousness, which is what I teach about, which is so exciting to me because that's heaven on earth, which is free of all the stuff that we drag around. 99% subconscious is how we're filterizing and perceiving everything around us. Whoo, can you imagine if even you just let go of 3% of that scaffolding, how life would then be given the right of way to show up for you. And this is what we learn with A Course in Miracles. This is what I teach. This is what I've learned with A Course in Miracles, how I've interpreted it, is that when there's less of us, meaning the past version of us that is rooted in trauma and fear, in pain and hate and rage and whatever all that stuff is that gets all tangled, right, in us, in our energy bodies, when there's less of that tangled scaffolding, blocking the true perception through the third eye and the heart to see with eyes of Christ, to see with eyes of love and light. When that stuff is cleared out, and even if we just shift a little bit of, we begin to become that which cannot be contained. We begin to become godlike, which is just full of love and grace and non-judgment. And that's what this is showing us. That's the freedom. That sovereignty is not being bound by the past. That sovereignty is being present in the now moment. And that's the now. That's when you're not thinking about the future. You're not worried about the past or still harboring those old pains. And believe me, I know I walked with them for 40 years. All this 3 specific things that marked me in my youth. My book's up there. If you check out my book, The Reiki Apprentice, I mean, it's all laid out there, but also so is how I healed it. So when we go to, I do not understand anything I see in this room, we're dropping to 0 point. We're dropping back everything into love. When you just say, you know what? I know nothing. All the scaffolding, all the polarities, all the things that would have us bound and have us get triggered and have us rerun memories of the past and say, you see, the world is fucked up. You see, I never get enough money. You see, I'm always late with the rent. You see, romance and love, whatever those things that we have, those things about that are so a part of our life that we don't even realize it until we realize it. Those things begin to get unconditioned. We learn how to drop the stories. When we drop the stories, we come into the now. By not understanding, by undefining those things that we had so rigidly, about our family. What's a family member that you have very specific decisions about, that you will never talk to them again, that you will not open your heart about, you've been hurt. That's meaning. That's the meaning you've given. And that creates the grids that you plug into, that plug into you, that create the energetic scaffolding through the synaptic sky that surrounds us, through the quantum sea that we exist in. You're collapsing wave functions, and you're saying they're bad and this is polarized and I'm a hurt child and whatever all the stuff is, and you're continuing that loop through the grid matrix, through your physical body, through your 3rd dimensional in this world plane existence, but where we're going in 4D, and where these teachings of A Course in Miracles have brought me is out of the 3D, is learning how to be a master of my time and space in this 3rd dimensional matrix, but not just to exit the matrix, but to master the matrix by understanding my contribution to it. And by understanding that this is all just stories. This is all just the past. And the more that I let the past go and heal and bless and release and just allow for a new moment in my life, a new now moment, that's when love is given the right of way. That's when God is given the right of way. And that's where the NOWOSPHERE, the now moment exists. That's where the spontaneous, the divine healing, the spontaneous happenstance miracles, the divine flow and synchronicity of life occurs. Not by our own making it happen and controlling it and hammering the nail and making it just so. It's by us getting out of the way and letting that which is our true identity, I will say, that which is our true essence, the God, the love, when we let that in to see through the physical eyes, when we let the 3rd eye see through the physical eyes, it's a very different world. But first we got to forget about everything we think we know. So just one more point, and then I'm going to read these comments. So again, these thoughts do not mean anything. We're reinstating lesson 1, because lesson 7, I see only the past. I see only the past. And we're letting the past go so that we can see the now. Oh, blessings, Melissa. So nice to see you here. Blessings, Melissa. And honestly, I need to look into this request that you offered here. I don't know how that works, but I will look into it, and I will look into it. And Skylark says, when we are ready to receive God's grace, the true meaning of life is revealed. When I asked for Christ to be in my life, everything changed. And when I started to say to myself, life is a mystery, I was able to live more in the now instead of trying to figure everything out. Amen. And isn't it just so? And I know we're almost done here. And I know I had shared that we were going to do a little meditation. So let's go ahead and just sit for just a few minutes. And we'll come back to this, because this book is very transformative. This is my 5th year sitting with it. The first 4 years, I studied it every day. I did every lesson every day. I read the text. And this year, I've been a bit of a rebel. And that's a whole other story. If you follow me, please do subscribe at tuesdaymaythomas.com at my website for my monthly love letter. I send out rough, unedited chapters from a book I'm working on that is the companion to the movie I'm creating, Grid Mind Science. You'll get a blog every month and little snippets and little worksheets and stuff that I don't offer out on my normal platforms. Do follow Grid Mind Science on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's the handle for the movie I'm working on, which is all about bridging the gaps between metaphysics, science, and spirituality, which is really a lot of A Course in Miracles is rooted in those teachings as well. So if you're interested, if this resonates, we're going to come back. We're going to do more Course in Miracles, because honestly, I feel that this past year that I've been a little bit gone rogue on it, which means I kind of divorced myself from God. If you know my love letters, you know that there was a point halfway through this year that I had a devastating thing happen. And it seems like every year, right? It's like, boom. But again, there's that invitation to let go of the past and to just like, let it be redefined in the name of love. Well, I kind of got upset at God, and I broke up with God. And it's interesting because I went rogue on the teachings, and they've always been here. And as I've been guided, I've dipped in, but I haven't been as daily practiced as I have been. But in these recent weeks, it has been a calling. So thank you. I'm so grateful that it's called you here too. Go explore it. There are study groups. If you just go online, meetup.com, there's study groups everywhere in libraries and cafes talking about A Course in Miracles. So please do, as you're guided, follow that guidance. So let's just take a moment to drop within, just together. And the last minute or two here, take a breath in and out. Come into your full power and authority, which is knowing that you are rooted in love, in spirit, in God, in source, and that ultimately you are not this body. You are so much more than that. You are that which cannot be contained. You are the divine in this world. Allowing ourselves to let go of those really firm structures that we know no longer serve our peace, our healing, our well-being. Those structures of mind, those structures of word, becoming acutely aware of that which we give rise to in this quantum, third dimensional world, and knowing that we can co-create a divine shift within us by simply having the real deep intention to do so, to release the past, to forgive, to forget under grace. So what is that you would allow yourself to just begin to consider, even if it feels scary to go there? What would you be with now that you are ready to allow source, allow spirit, God, love to redefine for you? What aspect of the past is that? And just bring it into your heart space. Be aware of it now. It might be a person, a place, a past event, something that just happened this morning or yesterday. What are you continuing to rerun the past in it that holds you in a past version of you, as well as the person, place, or situation? What are you ready to give to spirit? Again, the name that you would give it: Holy Spirit, higher self, that which is that messenger, whether maybe it's a totem, that which you're ready to give to raven, to hummingbird, to take to God, to take to creator, to source. so that it can be redefined for you, not by you, not my will, thy will. What are you really ready to let go of? To loosen the grip, feel that in your heart and give it away now. Give it to that messenger. And maybe you have that direct line. Maybe you're like, I don't need a messenger. It's God and me right here. Boom. Give it up. See yourself letting it go, giving it away. And then notice how that creates that emptiness in you. Give it away with love to the degree that you can and come back to that space. Now, here you go. You have let go of what you have given meaning to. You have let go of what the world has told you to give meaning to, that thing, that person, that place. Now take a breath in and out. And come back to the room, come back to your awareness. And now just being. Now just being. Just being. Be still for a moment and feel into your frequency here. Feel into that spaciousness. It's very abundant. It's very expansive. There's more space between the atoms of you now. There's more space for the sacred, for the holy, for the divine to channel through you. That these ideas, that your whole self and your whole world can be redefined in the name of love. And so it is. Thank you so much, dear community, everyone, for being here today. Again, I really appreciate you following on all the platforms and all of your support with what I share. In the new year, I look forward to bringing online courses and sharing those with you too. So make sure you do sign up at my love letter, my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com. And thank you for subscribing here at YouTube and participating in all of your comments. I'm so very grateful. I pray that this work that we did today and just this offering really serves you, and that this beautiful sense of peace and expansiveness that you're with now allows you a new set point whereby heaven on earth can anchor for real, where that 4D, that fourth dimensional heart space consciousness can anchor itself. Because what is 5D? There's a lot of talk about 5D, and that's not my domain. My domain where I teach is 4D. But what I say is, what is any D? If there's not heart, if we have not gone through the heart to be present. So blessings and thank you. I'm so grateful, with so much love. With so much love. And just a reminder, next week is my Q&A, Ask Me Anything, 4D Trinity, my monthly, where I channel your higher self and maybe pull a card or two. So maybe I'll see you then. Thank you again. Blessings.